something to say, something to say.
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is RHouse21 and it is ceramic bearing swap time again. So thanks to the guys at Bulka Bearings here. You see, got the logos right here, got the Bulka Bearing mouse pad, and also right here we have a set of precision ceramic orange seal bearings. So this is going into the orange XO-1 here. Now, most of you are probably familiar with it, but I'll go ahead and say, this is a Traxxas XO-1. I actually purchased this vehicle off of eBay, stripped it down, rebuilt it, and you're about to watch me rebuild it again. But the way that this is going to work, I'm going to do I'm actually going to break this up into a few videos, kind of like last time, where I'm just going to give an initial overview, just kind of show you, give a little quick tour of the car, and then we're going to basically take it apart for the large sub-assemblies. So we're going to split it up, sort of front, rear, and main chassis assembly, and then have individual videos where I go in and do the front, do the rear, and such. So, I'm going to try to make this a little bit quicker than the last times I did it. So just kind of focus, just knock it out. But I'm going to take the time to stop and explain things along the way, as my usual fashion. But I'm going to try to make this a pretty quick process. So before we get started, like I said, this is a set of their orange seal ceramic precision bearings. So this is their high-end, top of the line ceramic bearing kit. And this has every bearing in the model in here. And what's nice with this kit is that you can actually see, go through and identify, every type of bearing that's in here by the model number. And it's nice, just on this little Bulka Bearings mouse pad, you can see it identifies each of the different sizes and such. You can kind of track as you go along. But like I said, one of the nice things that Bulka does is assemble everything in a nice, easy to track kit. So you have everything you need, they're easily identified, so it makes it a lot easier to keep yourself organized. Now, with the XO-1, well, before I jump into the actual car, just talk about the tools you need. Now, working on the Traxxas models is actually pretty straightforward. You don't need a whole lot of tools. So I usually work focusing with my little dynamite toolkit here, but the main tools that you need out of this guy are the 2.5mm and 2mm hex drivers. And you can also use Allen wrenches. So over here I also have a set of, Allen wrenches, and with the the 2.5, 2, and 1.5 down here. But we really should need actually the 1.5 may be useful in pulling off some of the some of the axle retainers, but we'll get into all that when it comes time. So those are pretty much the main tools you need. Now, other things that are useful, it's always a good idea to have needle nose pliers, and I have an assortment of needle nose pliers over here, and also a set of locking pliers just in case I need to hold on to an assembly when I go through. The XO-1, you got 17mm hubs here, so you got your 17mm hub driver. And I also, just for things that are nice to have handy when you're doing one of these things, I like to also have tube of lubricant, which is nice for when you have to go in and re-lube certain assemblies. And also because things get messy, when you're dealing with bearings, and more precisely when you're dealing with differentials, it's not a bad idea to have a couple of blue shop cloths around, and this will just make your life a little bit easier when it comes time to clean up and such. So, and just because I'm doing a little bit of a rebuild going along with this, when it comes time, I'm also going to be installing a set of slash 4x4 sway arms. The XO-1 shares a lot mechanically with the slash 4x4, so you can use some parts like the sway arms pretty much interchangeably with the kit. So I'll show you how to install that as we're going through here. And also, since I have had this model apart already, I know there's a couple places inside that need to have a little bit of a lubricant touch up, so I'll take care of all that while we are digging in. So, all right, let's go ahead and pause and we'll get ready to jump in. Oh, one last thing. there's a lot of screws inside this model. So I also like to use, you know, a power driver. That's not a requirement, but it just makes your life easier. And again, you know, you can get a good set of hex bits online. These Ryobis did not come with the metric hexes that I needed, so I needed to buy these online. But again, 2.5mm and 1.5, and this is my 2. And you know, just so I can keep them straight, I just like to give a little mark, you know, with a red marker pen, so I can identify them quickly. So I got those guys there, and I also like to have a couple of extensions handy. So just in case you need to get into some hard to reach places. So we got that guy and this guy right here. So again, you don't really need all of these tools to do this job, but you know, it's always nice to have a little bit of flexibility. You know, having too many tools available is much better than not having the right tool. So with that said, let's go ahead and get to it. So first off, I'm just going to pull off the body and give you a quick tour of the car. So the XO-1, there's a lot of mystique about the XO-1, you know, because I mean, like I mentioned in the previous video, for some people the XO-1 is kind of like a unicorn. Yes, there's magic involved whenever you say XO-1 in some people's minds. But actually, the XO-1 is really similar mechanically to the Slash 4x4. So if you're familiar with the Slash 4x4, you'll be able to jump right into an XO-1, and they share a lot of components mechanically or very similar things. So you shouldn't be intimidated by this car. And I'll also point out the fact that there's a few ways to get into an XO-1. You know, you can buy an XO-1 brand new, which is expensive. Last time I checked, I think you can get, depending upon the features on your car, you can get one starting off brand new for, you know, the high $600s into low $700. And now Traxxas is introducing some with the Traxxas Stability Management System on board, which is basically an integrated gyro system, which augments, works along with telemetry as well, and that is an extra high dollar option. It adds a few dollars to the overall sale price. I went the opposite approach. I use an aftermarket radio system, so this car has telemetry in it, but I'm not actually using it. So because this car is going to be destined for more of a speed run application, and honestly the telemetry that I would get from the car during the run would be a distraction. So I am carrying my own little instrumentation so I can keep track of stuff, but that's all going to be read after the fact. But that's neither here nor there. Let's actually talk about the car. So you see I've got some aftermarket tires on here, and some not very good quality aftermarket tires, but I just put those on just to spare the actual XO-1 tires, which are a little bit pricey. But you know, looking at it mechanically, like I said, this is very much like a Slash 4x4. So things that are in common, let me go ahead and get my little power meter out of the way. You've got essentially a front end and rear end clip that come off of the car with a very small number of screws, just like on the Slash. The Slash, you can take apart the front with 5 screws and the rear with 4. The XO-1, you need a couple more. So I think it's a total of about 6 or 7 screws. I think it's like 7 screws to take off the front clip. And I do believe it's like 6 screws to take off the rear. And we'll keep that along the way. I'll count that along the way when we're doing it, just so you can keep track. But I mean, all in all, front part of the car just comes right off, rear of the car comes right off. You have a center drive shaft, which is braced by this nice little aluminum chassis brace, which is connected at 4 points here, here, and here. So this actually makes a really nice rigid chassis. So it has the car has a really strong backbone, which is nice. They also have an aluminum flat plate chassis down at the bottom. Because of how I intend to use the car, I had to modify the battery trays so I can hold a larger battery. That's not something that your average XO-1 owner will need to do, but it's something that, you know, was for me. And also, I've got my own little custom cat pack back here in order to augment the power system. Now that's, like I said, an aftermarket feature. But, you know, like I said, for the most part, you look at this guy, and you've got, you know, center drive shaft that connects to the Castle 1717 motor. You know, so this is a nice, powerful, torquey motor. Connects to what would be a slipper clutch on the Slash platform. On the XO-1, they call it a cush drive. And, you know, sends the power up to the front and rear differentials. The differential housings are actually the exact same ones that are used on the Slash 4x4s. But inside of there, they have a different differential. It's mechanically the same on the outside, but it has some reinforcements on the inside to make it a little bit stronger and beefier. So, but as far as everything else, you know, the steering geometries, the camber links and everything, it's the same setup that you find on the Slash 4x4. The main differences, of course, is that, you know, with these drive shafts, you know, you have these, you know, these CVD units, and I mean, these are a nice upgrade. You know, not completely 100% necessary if you want to, let's say, build yourself a Slash-based XO-1 platform, but they're stronger and durable, so it works. So it's a pretty well dialed in platform. Other things that are special or different about this car, I'm using the stock Traxxas servo. However, you know, I've done some small tweaks to the drive line. So, you know, I've, you know, changed out the springs to the Revo red springs to make the car a little bit stiffer. If there's a little bit of weight up front to try to modify the balance a little bit, bring the CG, the center of gravity, a little bit forward. I still have a lot of tuning that I need to do in order to try to get the car handling the way I want it to. But, you know, there's, you know, the car has, like I said, it has good bones and it has a lot of tunability. So with that being said, let's go ahead and just take off the front and back clip. So I'm going to go ahead and put together this little extension. So like I said, this car comes apart fairly easily with a small number of screws. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off the front end first. So first thing I'm going to do is take off the servo, and it's always good to make sure you have the right bit in place. So this would be 2mm, and just go ahead and pull this off, and just so I don't lose anything, I'm going to put this screw right back in place. All right. But like I said, I also have my magnetic retainer over here, or screw holder. This thing. So I'm going to be using this all throughout this process. Okay, so that's off there. One screw down. Now I'm going to go ahead and get these two up here. Those are the larger size, 2.5mm. Now it's a good idea to keep track of these guys. The ones that go into this bulkhead are a little bit longer than the ones that are on the bottom of the car. So, got that. So now, let's go ahead and turn this guy sideways. So we are going to be removing these four right here. All right, and you see, it pops right off just like that. So, set this guy up here, and you can see, you know, full assembly, Alright, so I'm just going to set this aside as one unit right here. And now we're going to pull off the back half of the car. So like I said, this is the exact same process. So here you've got 2 screws on the top. Sorry, I'm out of frame. Let's do that again. So here you've got 2 screws on the top, and then you've got 4 screws on the bottom. So a total of 6 screws total here. So I guess that's 7 screws up front and 6 screws in the rear. And you have successfully dissected your XO-1. Okay, and these right here for the rear are a little bit shorter than the fronts. That's one way to help keep them separated, keep track of them. And like I said, if you're really paranoid about confusing these guys and losing track, you can just, after you get it apart, just go ahead and put the screws back in the hole so you don't lose them. All right, so again, same process as before. You got these 2, and I do believe these 2. Actually, no, you need to do, okay, so there's an extra 2, so you need to do 8 screws in the rear. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so these 2 are 2.5 millimeters. Okay. Actually, before I do that, okay, no, I was incorrect. These are the screws that hold on the motor mount. Those don't need to come off. Let's put those guys back in. And I'm adjusting my torque setting on this guy so I don't overdrive screws. All right. Okay, so that 2 millimeter. Oh, these are extra long. I forgot about that. So when you put this back together, remember that these extra long screws belong in the rear. All right, there you go. Of course, it doesn't want to come off. There we go. All right, so now these 2. And part of my forensic work, now, I was starting to say, as part of my forensic work of looking at this car when I picked it up, you can see that this car had, it wasn't that rough a life, but it definitely had lived. So you can see that the bottom of the chassis, it's got a lot of little scrapes and dings, and that's from bottoming out. And here you've got road rash. So whoever had this car before me was doing a good amount of speed running or just something, bashing. So, but the car's still in good mechanical shape. It has some issues that I discovered along the way, and I'll point those out as I do that. But as you can see right here, boom, there's the center part of the chassis, and here is the rear clip. So like I said, anybody who is familiar with the Slash 4x4 is very familiar with this process with these assemblies. So, all right, so the next step of the process is diving into the front, rear, and center clips of the car and going here and tearing out the bearings. Now, just really quick to kind of show you where we're going to be focusing on. The Slash, or the XO-1, and has bearings all throughout all these assemblies. So for the front clip, you've got 4 bearings that are inside of the steering assembly. So inside the bell cranks here. So we're going to have to pull that apart. We've got bearings inside the actual differential housing, so that's going to have to come apart. And then we also have 2 sets of bearings, or 2 bearings on either side of the steering, the steering blocks. So, and also you have 2 bearings that are supporting the differential input shaft as well. So we're going to have to pull this thing fairly well apart in order to get everything out of here. And the same goes for the rear clip, where you have a bearing that's supporting the input shaft right here. You also have, similar to the fronts, you've got 2 bearings supporting each of the outer, the shafts in the caster blocks here. However, they're same size in the rear axles, there are different sizes in the fronts. And then you also have to have the ones that support the differential. So again, we're going to have to pull this all apart in order to get to there too. But it's not that bad a job. And going back for the center, there's also a couple of bearings that support the center drive shaft. And this is fairly straightforward to get at. You essentially just have to pull off the screws that support the front and bottom. This assembly comes out of the unit, and then there's some bearings and retainers in there. And that's pretty much it. And you just got the push drive, which is sitting back here. This guy doesn't need to come out there is a bearing that supports that, so it does need to come out. But that's pretty simple. All I have to do is pull off these 2 screws here, and that comes right out. So, all right guys, so this is the overview video. So stay tuned, and we're going to jump into, I'm going to do the center chassis first, and I'm going to do the front and rear clips. All right, so always remember to like, comment, subscribe. You got Our House 21 signing out. Thanks for tuning into this video series. And, as I always say, remember the mantra, fly, fix, fly, break it, fix it, do it all over again. And like I said, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and do please check out the rest of the series. I hope you guys find it useful. Peace.